and welcome to another episode of FooBar. Today, I want to tackle one of the biggest challenges in distributed applications. That is understanding where something is wrong. And also getting the trust that the application is working correctly. For solving this problem, I already have talked about alarms, logs, and I'm missing one aspect in the observability pyramid. That is tracing, distributed tracing. So let's talk about that today. The first question you might be asking is, what is distributed tracing? I already have logs. I already have alarms. You talk about that. That is great. Yes, but logs are not enough. Logs give us the point of view on the execution of a particular lambda or piece of code in a particular moment. It's a snapshot. We cannot see the whole life cycle of what happened before that log and what happened after. And this is very crucial in distributed applications when our execution from the moment the client makes a request until it gets the response might jump from multiple parts of our application and multiple components. In the past, in more traditional applications, we used to have, a Java application that will take the request, do all the magic and return a response. So logs were enough. We could see and understand the life of this request response. And if there was an error, we could go to the logs and analyze it. In distributed application, that's not the case. We might have a log for Lambda A that executes first, a log for Lambda B, a log for the microservice C that is running Kubernetes, a log for the payment system that is doing something else in some third party, and how we know which part of these logs all combine together. For that, distributed tracing is very important. Distributed tracing will follow from end to end the life cycle of a request, from the request coming in until the request comes out. And that's why it's important that also our distributed tracing can take asynchronous calls, because in some point of our distributed application, our transaction and our trace might become asynchronous, and it's quite hard to follow that path. So when we are working with AWS, we might want to use a service called Xray. There is many services from third party that do distributed tracing. So if you are not interested in looking at Xray, go and check some of these other services. They might work similar, but in today I will be showing the demo of Xray, and I will go into the details of Xray that is already included in your AWS account and in what AWS provides. So basically, Xray will collect all the data from the request into your application and build a kind of service map, a service graph of everything. So it will show you, okay, the client make this request to this API gateway, then this API gateway invoked this lambda sent a message to the event bridge, then this event was picked by another lambda, and so on. So basically, you can see the full picture and end-to-end transactions. In this way, you can get the visibility of your whole application and not just the individual bits as you will get with logs. Logs are still useful, and we will see later how they relate here. So when we work with Xray, we work with segments. So segments are like kind of groups of the pieces of your trace, and you can define your own segments of sub-segments inside the execution of a Lambda function or pieces of code that you want. So basically, you can add in a sub-segment. There are some that are created by Xray automatically. So, for example, the initialization of a Lambda function, and then when it's processing the data, you will see that as segments. And then, for example, in the main part of your Lambda function, you can create sub-segments, and there you can basically break the execution in pieces. These sub-segments are great because then you can isolate how long this process works. So for example, imagine you have a Lambda function that is calling a third party, and you might not be able to instrument the third party, you don't have access to it, but you can add a sub-segment that starts before calling that third party and ends after, and then you can have the latency to how long it takes you to call and get the response from that third party. Also, you can add more information into the segment. So you can add metadata and you can add annotations, and then you can perform operations on that. So then the debugging process becomes richer. So for example, we will be able to, if again, going back to the third-party example, you could put the request in the metadata, and then if you have any problem with that third party, you can go and see what was the request that was sent into that third party. There are many services providing integration with Xray, and there are different levels of integration that these services provide. I will leave you a link in the description box with all the services that integrate and how they integrate with Xray. Some services provide active instrumentation that you can sample and instrument all the incoming requests to the service. For example, Lambda, you can add more information and you can create your own custom segments and do quite a lot of things within Xray inside the Lambda function. Other service instruments requests that have been sampled by another service. So for example, EventBridge will do that. So they will add the tracing header and continue to propagate that into the next step. And you will be able to see a little bit of the request that has been sent to EventBridge. Then we have the request tracing, and this is super important for asynchronous calls. So it's an trace ID that is added to all the requests. So you can basically follow the trace from request to end to end, basically. So in that way, no matter if the whole processing is asynchronous, then Xray will be able to find it. So again, this is the case of EventBridge that will add this trace ID for when it sends an event to another Lambda, for example. So then it's able to link that connection, even if it's an asynchronous one. And then we have some tooling that we can add in our application. So you will see an example later of the AWS SDK that is processed with the Xray tooling that we can instrument that calls to the AWS SDK. Hey, you, go and like this video. Go, put a comment, ask me your questions. YouTube likes when you do that, makes it happy. So let's continue. So now I want to show you all this in a demo because it's so much easier to explain if you can see it. So we are going to grab an existing application. I already showed you how to build this application. This has been around quite a lot. This is my EventBridge application. I like it because it has the synchronous aspect. It has some Lambda functions. It has APIs. It has alarms. It has quite a little bit of everything. So I don't need to code it from scratch. If you want to see how I build this application, I leave you the first video in there, and from there you can go around. But basically in this video, we are not focusing on how I build that application. That's for the EventBridge series. So what we are going to do here is we are going to look at how you can configure Xray from Lambda for API Gateway, how you can see that in the service map, how you can look at the traces, how you can create segments and subsegments, and then we will look at the service lens from CloudWatch. So let's get to the demo. So this is the application. If you are interested, the code is in the link is in the description box. There are 4 branches. I'm starting with the video alarms branch. So everything is configured. It's the latest branch. So go and get it. And for getting started, you need to have deployed the order manager, Pizza Hut, and Blue Dragon. So that's kind of what I'm expecting you to have deployed. And let's start with the order manager. We are going to get there. So the first thing I want to do is to instrument the Lambda and the API gateway. So in order for Xray to show it. So if we will deploy this before adding the instrumentation, when we go to Xray, nothing will be shown. Xray is not aware of these services. So in order for this to be aware, we need to enable tracing, and then this will start sending information to Xray. So by doing this, then API Gateway and Lambda will appear automatically in the Xray dashboard. I put it in the globals, even though there is only one function here, but I like to add it to all my functions when possible because it helps a lot the debugging process. And then if we want to go one more step in the instrumentation of our Lambda function, then we can add the AWS Xray SDK core module that you can install in your application, and then you can basically capture all the traffic that goes to the AWS SDK, and there basically it will help to propagate. So now if we will deploy this before adding this, our application will stop basically in Lambda, but because we add this capture, then it will be able to do the passive instrumentation for Event Bridge. Also, by using the Xray library, we are able to add subsegments to our application. So I will add one subsegment so you can see how it works. So in my handler, I will create a subsegment that is wrapping basically the put event in Event Bridge part. That is just a function that I created that is putting something in the AWS SDK. I will have this so I can understand how long this operation takes. If I will not have this, then I will have some information on Event Bridge, but I will not get more information than the basics. I cannot see how long this operation takes in the Lambda. I cannot see any metadata on what was sent to Event Bridge. I cannot see anything like that. So I add this subsegment that is basically wrapping this call. And when I call it wrapping is because there is a segment add. You can see there it says segment.add new segment, and then at the end it says the name of the subsegment that I'm creating, close. So it's important to close and to wrap what you want within this subsegment. So this will then calculate the time that this code in between is taking, so you can understand that, and also you can add more information to it. So in this case, I'm adding an annotation and I'm adding metadata. These look very similar, but annotations and metadata are kind of different. Annotations are searchable. So when you do annotations, then you can search on them. So here you can put information that can be relevant for you to search on later in the Xray Console. I just put something, the customer name. And the thing with annotations, they need to be key value pairs. So you cannot put a full object here. It needs to be a string or a number or something, some kind of simple value. And then metadata is not searchable, but then you can dump a whole object there. So this is really great for putting the whole request or the parameters. So if you're calling a third party, then you can put the request here. So when it comes to look at the traces, you can understand what is going on. So this is something that will be added in the subsegment, this put event in Event Bridge. So you can see the subsegment name is kind of the same as the function. You don't need to call it that way. You can call it any way that it's good for you. I just very creative, as you know. So in this way now our Lambda function is instrumented, our API is instrumented, and then the calls to Event Bridge are instrumented, and we can see the details within that Event Bridge call through that subsegment. So I already deployed this and the Pizza Hut, that is the service we are calling, and I will basically do a request. I have the endpoint from deploying it, and I'm doing just a request. Good. So now we can see what is in the Xray Console. So we can go and check it out. There is the Xray service. You can search for it. You can find it in your console. And it takes a little while to populate that service map. So if you see nothing is found, make sure that you refresh that service map and start computing the time. And also make sure that you have the right time frame. Here it says the last 5 minutes. You can change that to anything that you want. So here, when you have it refreshed, you can see that there is these little balls that are green, and that means that everything is healthy. There is orange and there is red. That means that orange is an kind of warning, and red, that is something really wrong. And you can see that it says client, and then it has some logo of API gateway, and then it has 2 lambdas, and then it has the Event Bridge, and nothing after that. So why there are 2 lambdas, you might be wondering. Well, this is because the active and passive instrumentation of Lambda. Basically, Lambda adds two nodes to your application, one for the Lambda service itself and one for the Lambda function. So that's why you will see it like that. So in the case, for example, of our application, in the first node, we will not see much. In the second node of the Lambda function is where we will see the segment and the subsegment that we just created. So if we click around these balls, we can see some information. In this case, there is only one request, so that's a happen. But what you might be wondering, what happens when there's multiple requests? Well, Xray doesn't do doesn't get all the traces. That's a lot of information for our application. It just does sampling, so it will get you a sample of your requests. So that's something you need to be aware of. You will get only a part of all the requests in your system. In this case that we are testing, it will do one and it will show it to you. But when you have a bulk of traces coming in, it will just show you a sample of them. So just click on the balls, then this little graph appear, and then you can start filtering the traces. If you want to get the error ones, the okay ones, or whatever, you can select those and then basically view the traces. And then you can basically open that and just pick the traces. Here is where there will be the sample list of the traces. And if you have multiple different URLs kind of invoking or generating traffic here, you will see it as well. Here we only have one because it's the one we call. And then we only have one trace because it's the one that we call. And you can see that it was a 200 result, it was a post, and the URL is the one that I call. And then if I click there, then you will start seeing a lot of information. Again, you will see the whole kind of drawing of the application, the API gateway, the Lambda, the two nodes of Lambda, and the event bridge. And then after, you can start seeing the whole tracing. So you can start seeing what API gateway was doing, what the Lambda service was doing, and then the Lambda function itself. And then if you go to the Lambda function, there you will see the different segments that I was mentioning before, the initialization, the invocation, and inside the invocation segment, we will see the put event in event bridge sub-segment that we created. So this doesn't exist, and it says there the duration 1.1 seconds. So it's quite considerable in the whole operation. It takes quite a bit of it. And then if we open that sub-segment, you can start seeing in the annotations that value keeper that we added, and in the metadata that dump of the order details that we put there. And then if we click on the event bridge, there is not really much information there. We cannot see anything. So that's why it's important to add the sub-segment so you can see what was being done. And then if you look, then you don't see anything after event bridge. It's kind of empty. So what to do? Well, we need to add some instrumentation in the next part of our application. I told you that event bridge is passive instrumentation. So we instrumented kind of when we were doing the Lambda, and we added the AWS SDK that was wrapped around the Xray. But then event bridge doesn't do much, and we need to now instrument the Lambda function that is called after this event bridge. So we go back to our code, and there we will open the service Pizza Hut and add instrumentation. So this service I already deployed, but you can also deploy it for the first time here. But this service is a super simple Lambda function, basically, that it's invoked by event bridge when there is a matching rule. And what I'm going to do is add another global that is enabling the tracing for this function. If you go to the handler, I will not add any extra instrumentation to it. No need, that function doesn't do much. So I will add just that into my Pizza Hut, and I will deploy it, and we can come back when this is deployed and see what happens in our Xray console. So now again, I'm going to make a request, same everything, and we go back to Xray. I will refresh, and there you will see that when the service maps updates, you will see that after the event reach, there is something else. So we can see that there is 2 Lambda nodes, again, one for the service, one for the function, and that means that now this Pizza Hut Lambda is kind of instrumented, so we can go and check it out. So that's great. We can check the traces again for this thing, and we can see the whole life cycle of our request from end to end until basically the request gets to the pizza service, the Pizza Hut. So now let's try another of the rules. This is the Blue Dragon, it's another restaurant, and this restaurant is a little bit different because this one doesn't have a Lambda function. It's using API destinations from event reach. So if you don't know what they are, go and check that video, it's in the description box, but basically it's not a Lambda function invoke, it's an API called directly to a third party. So if we run that, then and we update the service map to see the latest trace. I'm just changing a little bit the time frame so I can get the right trace, but you can filter those traces as well if you want, but I just want to get one drawing in the screen. You can see again that there is nothing after event reach. Basically, because nothing is instrumented after event reach, we cannot see what happened. So what now? Well, if you want to get more information of your application, you can use CloudWatch service map and service lens, sorry. So CloudWatch service lens is a great service that will combine like logs, tracing, alarms, everything that is available from your application. So this is a great service, and I think it's way useful than Xray by itself because you can see everything. So if you open the service map, you will find it in the CloudWatch, and you will see exactly the same kind of view. There you already see that the event reach has like a little triangle, a red triangle, and that means that there is an alarm, an alert. And we have not seen that from Xray. We have not seen that alert in Xray. So we have seen everything was green or yellowish, but it really didn't show the whole picture. So if we click there, we can see that there is one alert, and then we can basically look at that alert and an alarm and open it. So I talk a lot about this in the video about alarms, on how to create those, so go and check them. We went into the details on how you create that alarm, but that's the story about it. So you can see the alarm, and you can see the logs and the traces for all the nodes. So for example, now I click in the Lambda and click view logs, and that's something you could not do from Xray, and that opens the log insights that we already talked about log insights in the video about the structure logs, on how you can do queries and perform queries in that application. So you can do that for all the Lambda functions, for example, that has logs, and then you can also see the full traces. So this is the nodes, the Lambda function, the event, and the other Lambda function, for example. You can do understanding a little bit of the time that things take. You can see all the traces that are available and what are the response times. So it's kind of the same view of Xray, but it has more information, and it's all kind of linked together, all the information that you have available, so you don't need to jump around. So you can also see the segment and the sub-segments, and you can see the information on the sub-segment, the notations and the metadata and the logs and the queries. So this is a tool that is extremely useful for debugging and understanding what's wrong in your application, what is going well, on how the latency is, how everything is taking, what are the bottlenecks in your application, understanding the behavior of your application. Service Lens is the answer. It's a great holistic service for your application. You can see everything, and this is kind of the center of observability in your distributed application. Use Service Lens with CloudWatch alarms, with the CloudWatch dashboards, with the logs, with Xray, instrument everything, and then you will have the whole observability of your distributed application in a great way. So that's the video for today. I want to ask you, do you have more questions on observability in distributed applications? What else you would like to know? What problems are you having with your distributed applications and what you cannot see? I'm always curious on seeing your questions and your comments about this topic so I can make content that you want to watch. And I see you in the next episode of FooBar. Ciao, ciao!